this is part 2 of chapter 5 in your textbook. So we left off right here, working with other professionals. So talking about collaborating with paraprofessionals. Paraprofessionals, are who used to be called kind of teacher's aides or teacher's assistants or something like that. And now the more commonly accepted term is paraprofessionals. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're communicating openly with those professionals as well and coordinate the paraprofessional schedule. If you're a special ed teacher, you might have 3 or 4 paraprofessionals in your classroom, depending on what type of classroom you're in, and you're going to need to be the one to coordinate those schedules, coordinate who's taking what student where, and who's doing this and who's doing this, right? So it's fun. Model instructional strategies, appropriate ways of interacting. They don't have the necessarily the full teaching degree like you do. So that's where you want to make sure you're explicitly modeling some appropriate instructional strategies. Thinking about how to support RTI, how can you share that with those paraprofessionals? Prepare them to interact responsibly with students, teachers, and families. They shouldn't be emailing the families necessarily, but they might have some contact with the families, and that's fine, right? And thinking about how you can maintain regular positive interactions and support the skill development of the paraprofessionals. Okay, then you also are going to need to think about collaborating with families. So you want to think about ways, whether you're the gen ed or the special ed teacher, how you can promote family and school collaboration, how you can focus on the needs of the family and the student, not their values, right? So this is where you have to put your religious, political, all of those things aside and focus on how you can best support the needs of the family and the student, right? You're not there to preach to them. Thinking about medication, right? If you really think, oh, this student could benefit from medication, but the family doesn't believe in it, it's not your place to try to push your values on them. We really want to think about the needs of the family, the needs of the student, accept them as they are. Realize that, they're doing the best they can under the circumstances, right? They're not trying to be quote unquote bad parents. They're doing the best they can. Try to put yourself, in their shoes, especially if they just found out their student has autism or a significant learning disability or something like that. They're not purposely trying to be bad in quotes. And then thinking about, collaborating with culturally and linguistically diverse families. If you need a translator or not interpreter, someone who speaks Spanish, if the family speaks Spanish, translator, right? Make sure you make that happen. Okay, some principles of communication with everyone, other teachers, families, paraprofessionals. Establish a relationship of mutual respect and trust. Show acceptance by how you listen, respond, interact. If you're sitting there with your arms crossed over your chest during the meeting, well, whoever you're meeting with is not really going to think that, that they're being accepted and that they're being listened to. So, listen effectively, ask open-ended questions, right? Try to get people involved in in discussions, whether again, families, students, especially older students, and other paraprofessionals, other therapists, whoever, gen ed teachers, special ed teachers. Try to get everyone involved in the discussion. Keep discussion focused when professionals and parents talk about a student, right? Don't just go, off the rails and start talking about something that has absolutely nothing to do with that particular student or the issue of why you're meeting. So you can think about, developing your own interviewing skills. Interviews are, really key to open communication, effective intervention. Ask open questions that permit a full range of answers. Again, those open-ended questions. Solve problems by generating possible solutions, discussing implementation, and then summarize the problem and the plan of action and follow up. Don't just say, okay, bye, see you later. Give a plan. Who's going to do what and how are you going to follow up with whatever plan you're trying to put into place. Again, collaboration in an RTI model or MTS squared, right? Same thing. So collaboration is really critical in the RTI model, making sure that a student is receiving appropriate interventions needed to catch up, if we can catch them up, and figuring out who's going to do those interventions, special ed teacher, the general ed teacher. Schedule intervention times on a consistent basis. Okay, I'm going to pull this group of tier 2 students as a gen ed teacher to the back of the classroom every day at 9 o'clock, whatever, something like that. Recognize the need for pre-teaching, reteaching, and ensure effective delivery of interventions and facilitate meeting times and arrangements with families. All of those things are really important. Conferences with family members, you can have some planned meeting times. Make sure that will give you time to review the students' materials, grades, their progress, right? Some of those progress monitoring measures will be helpful and handy here to show the families. Review the student's portfolio, assessment information, provide samples of the student's work, establish and review goals, criteria for academic and behavioral work. And then there might be some on-plan meetings too. You're going to have some parents that call you or email you and say, can we talk, just over the phone really quickly or whatever. Listen to them, paraphrase your understanding of the issue, right, to make sure you're all on the same page and respond as completely as possible. Don't promise anything like, oh yeah, I'll get your student a one-on-one paraprofessional, one-on-one assistant. No, that doesn't come from you because you're not paying their salary. But respond as completely as you can and say, either something like, maybe we need to have a full team meeting to discuss this issue, or let me go to my administrator and see what solutions they might come up with. So don't promise anything that you can't deliver, but take the time to listen, paraphrase, and respond as completely as you can. Okay, so family involvement is actually a part of Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, right? Our friend IDEA. So remember, it was passed in 1990, amended in 2004. And I say that, embarrassed because it should have been amended since then, but that's just my 2 cents. And it does ensure that all youngsters, I like that word, with disabilities receive a free, appropriate public education, or FAPE, right? We talked about that, FAPE. Emphasizes special ed and related services designed to meet their unique needs. Again, not saying special education is a place, but remember, we're now saying it is a service, and not just, oh, we're going to stick a kid in special ed down the hall. No, no, that's not what it is anymore. Go back a few chapters if you're not remembering what I'm talking about. So then there's something called Part B of special ed, which is this is for special ed and related services for students excuse me, with disabilities from age 3 to 21. And age 3 is really kind of that early intervention. Well, actually, this birth to age 3. So really getting those kids before, we're not waiting to fail for them to fail. We're not waiting for them to get to 4th grade and then they can't read, anything. And then Part C is special education related services for children with disabilities from birth to age 3. So really IDEA covers, birth essentially to age 21. Okay. Some states say 22, 21, 22-ish. So that's just kind of something to think about, that birth to age 3 is its own component, Part C of IDEA, and ages 3 to 21 is their own, it's its own component as well, Part B. And I think that is it for chapter 5.